So at this point, I'd like to welcome Christina, Montoya, and Jenifer Tharani. If you ladies could share your video and come off mute so we can say hello. Hey, welcome to the extravaganza. We're very happy to have you here.
Hello, thank you.
Happy to be here.
Very much so.
So the way this session is going to work is that we have a presentation from each presenter, and I believe, Jenifer, you're going first. And so I'll hand over to you in a minute, and then once we've had those presentations, we'll have 10 minutes at the end to ask questions. As always, you can put your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom, and then I'll pop on at the end to pose those questions to our presenters. Okay, so Jenifer, over to you.
All right, great. So I don't have any presentation. I don't like doing slides. So what I'm going to do is I really want you guys to maybe, take a few notes if you have a notebook, but really think about this session as like, what are some of the things I can really start implementing today itself and on a consistent basis. Like we want nutrition to be, we want it to feel like a breath of fresh air. However, what it, the persona that it has on social media, it can get very bad rep, especially because, it could be restrictive, anxiety provoking, a lot of things. So that's why I just want to lead this session on a very positive note and just let you guys know that following an anti-inflammatory eating pattern can be fun. You can live a, vibrant life by utilizing nutrition and helping to reduce some of your symptoms if you're properly and strategically using nutrition to your benefit. As well as, a lot of you were asking questions about exercise, and I know a few physical therapist is going to come talk about exercise. So just kind of keep these things in mind, because fueling your exercise is also super important. And that's one mistake I see often. So I'm going to jump into my session. I'll be talking about the basics of anti-inflammatory eating pattern, and I'll share what a day of eating anti-inflammatory foods looks like and a few strategies to be consistent with this eating pattern. And then our lovely Christina will talk about some meal prepping hacks with arthritis. So just a little bit intro. I never introduced myself. I just assume. So I'm a registered dietitian. I have a master's degree in anti-inflammatory nutrition and probiotic bacteria. So basically, that's my background when it comes to nutrition, especially anti-inflammatory nutrition, and my mother has chronic illness. So that's how I've combined empathy as well as, my education to help women with arthritis. So I'm just going to be looking at my phone. So I have some notes here. Number one thing when it comes to anti-inflammatory eating pattern is fiber containing carbohydrates. So I see a lot on Instagram, and I'm very, active on social media because there's so much misinformation. And carbohydrates are your friend. If you're struggling a lot with brain fog, focus on the fact that if you're getting enough carbohydrates or not in the morning. I see a lot of people drink smoothies, great. But if the smoothie is just made with vegetables, you're really not getting any brain energy providing carbohydrates. So you want to be really, really mindful of getting those fiber containing carbohydrates in every single meal and snack. And like I said, I'll go through a day of eating all of these foods so you get a better idea of what that looks like. Number two, plant forward protein options. So what I see often is a lot of people see on social media, doctors promoting vegan diets, raw diets and things like that. Again, if ethically you feel like you want to follow a vegan diet, for sure. But if you're someone who enjoys eating a little bit of meat, that's okay too. You don't have to give up. And that's why I use the word forward. So, you can kind of start incorporating some plant-based proteins in your diet. And that is going to help you with, overall reducing inflammation and better gut health. Omega-3 fatty acids and other micronutrient dense healthy fats. So what this does is, again, you need to have a really good balance of omega-3s and omega-6s in your body. What happens is we eat so many foods that contain omega-6, so it's hard to kind of like control that aspect of eating. But what we can do is provide more sources of omega-3 fatty acids to our body so that there's enough omega-3s floating around and bind to the receptor, which helps reduce inflammation, because omega-6 and omega-3 bind to the same receptors. So you want enough of the omega-3s to be able to bind to the receptors to help reduce inflammation. And I'll go back and give some examples, but I wanted to quickly go through the list. Colorful vegetables and fruits, awesome. Vegetables, a lot of us know we need to eat a lot of vegetables, but growing up, some of us may be exposed to tons of different varieties of vegetables, and some of us may be just exposed to peas and corn as vegetables or canned green beans. So what I find is like variety is missing, and variety is key. Fruits, again, don't fear fruits. Fruits have natural sugar in them. So go for 2 to 3 servings of fruits, not a problem at all, daily. I see a lot of times clients come to me and they're like, oh, I was told not to eat an apple because it has sugar or it has carbohydrates. And I'm like, no, you can't eat an apple. It's an amazing source of fiber, quercetin, and antioxidant, as well as, a carbohydrate. Fermented dairy, and this is very close to my heart because, like I said, I have a master's degree in this. And again, if you eliminate dairy, you have to know whether the whole dairy food group is your trigger or whether, just eliminating lactose can be enough, because research studies have shown that fermented dairy helps with reducing inflammation. And obviously it helps with providing those probiotic bacteria to your gut. Now, the caveat with other, bacteria containing fermented foods, if there's not enough research in that versus how much research there is in dairy. And dairy is a matrix that helps protect the probiotic bacteria when it goes through your stomach, where it's very acidic, and allows it to reach your intestine in high levels to replenish. So that's why I'm a big proponent of fermented dairy, if you're able to incorporate that, and if dairy is not your trigger. Prebiotics, herbs and spices, and extra virgin olive oil. So these are all basics of anti-inflammatory eating pattern. Now, a few examples could be of the fiber containing carbohydrates, could be whole grains, beans and lentils, starchy vegetables such as sweet potatoes, squash, etc. Omega-3 containing foods could be chia seeds, ground flaxseed, your oily fish such as salmon, trout, sardines. All of those are a good source of omega-3 fatty acids. Also including other nuts and seeds can provide you with health benefits. So let's say if you are allergic to nuts, you can include more seeds in your diet. Plant forward protein options, again, tofu, soybeans, beans, lentils, those are all great plant forward protein options. You also get some protein from whole grains. However, if you're avoiding gluten, if you are not eating a lot of gluten, then gluten is a protein. So you're not getting protein from, a lot of gluten-free options unless you're very cognizant of including the right amount of gluten-free grains in your diet. And a few examples could be, buckwheat, quinoa, oats, but again, they are not very high in protein. Quinoa gets a rep that it's a complete, it is a complete protein, but you would have to eat a lot of quinoa to get adequate amount of protein from that. Colorful vegetables and fruits, they are self-explanatory. I tell my clients, when you're going to the grocery store, find one vegetable and one fruit that you've never tried before. Sometimes I even encourage them to go to ethnic stores because, you know, South Asian stores or Indian store or Japanese store or Mexican stores, you will find different types of vegetables over there that you've probably never tried, and they can increase, you know, the diversity of the fiber that you get from them and the antioxidants that they provide. Prebiotics, a few examples could be, again, you know, it boils down to getting adequate amount of beans and lentils, garlic, onions. These are really good. But if you follow a low FODMAP diet, and if garlic and onions are your trigger, then, you know, trying to be strategic about being able to include small amounts of these foods can be helpful as well. Herbs and spices, I love these. I incorporate them all the time. That's why my food photography is really bad, because everything comes out to be yellow because I add a lot of turmeric. But the one thing that you have to remember, and I didn't know this for years, and my mom only put turmeric and not black pepper in the foods. So I don't think we ever got benefits of turmeric, but you need to include ground black pepper when you're including turmeric in cooking to increase its bioavailability. Fats also help increase the bioavailability of turmeric. The other herbs and spices, again, if you go to ethnic stores, you can find so many different herbs and spices that you can include in your day-to-day cooking. Extra virgin olive oil, this is, you know, pretty self-explanatory. You can include this in making dressings or cooking with it, or if you're using air fryer, you could use like an aerosol spray of extra virgin olive oil, and that should be good too. So what does a day of eating anti-inflammatory? Oh, I forgot water. So I like to add water in the basics of anti-inflammatory eating pattern because it's often missed, and a lot of times other beverages, you know, take the place of water. But I encourage my clients to drink adequate amount of water. And if you forget drinking water, then you have to figure out a strategy, maybe find a bottle, buy a bottle that has a quote that resonates with you, your favorite color water bottle, fill it up first thing in the morning so that it's right in front of you on your table so that you get water as well. So what does eating look like? You know, a day of eating. So for example, breakfast, you eat oatmeal with some cultured cottage cheese. Again, cultured cottage cheese has specific probiotic strains, with apples, again, for the prebiotic fiber, antioxidants, cinnamon for the spices, and some chia seeds for omega-3 fatty acids. Lunch, batch prepped soup or stew in an instant pot made with bone broth, beans, chicken, and veggies. Use garlic and leeks for prebiotics, and you can add dried herbs to your soup, you know, rosemary, thyme, whatever you like, lots of spices. I like to add bay leaf just for that flavor and nice fragrance. So you can also add that. Your dinner could be herbed brown rice. So again, you know, adding some dill to your rice or any kind of herb that you like, that you enjoy. I love cilantro, but one of my friends said when she eats cilantro, it tastes like soap to her. So I think there is some genetic mutation thing going on with flavor perspective of different herbs. So choose what you like. You know, what I'm saying today doesn't have to be set in stone. You can be creative. You can go on different websites and look for recipes. You can just Google even like, you know, herbed rice, and you'll get different versions of that as well. So herbed brown rice made in rice cooker. Even though I don't have arthritis, I use rice cooker often. It's easy, you know, it makes the food pretty quickly. I don't have to do anything with it. And it's an easy option. Sauteed frozen vegetables, and frozen vegetables are great. I often get asked this question, can I use frozen vegetables? Absolutely, you can. And then stir fry them in olive oil, air fried or pan fried tofu, again bringing in the soy protein, the plant-based protein, or you could choose to use turkey meatballs that are, you know, pre-packaged, pre-made. There are many options that are like just all whole food ingredients, no preservatives or additives added to them. If you prefer animal protein, you could use pre-made turkey meatballs as well, just to make the cooking and eating anti-inflammatory foods easier on you. And the snack could be edamame beans with pre-cut cantaloupe or banana. So, you know, this is what it would look like, right? Getting adequate amount of soluble and insoluble fiber, getting plant-based protein, and, you know, your healthy fats, and drinking enough water. So I'll quickly go over a few strategies. Do I have a minute? Or I'm done with time?
Yeah, we can give you 1 more minute to wrap up, please.
Okay,
Thank you so
perfect.
much. I know we've got such a
Okay.
packed agenda today.
That's fine. So a few strategies to be consistent with eating anti-inflammatory foods include shifting your mindset from elimination to addition. I know I often get this question, what should I eliminate? But I say to the people who ask me that question, ask yourself, what can I add, you know, and consistently do that. Look at it from the lens of this is an act of body kindness and self-care versus a chore. So, you know, nourishing your body should be like a way to, you know, express body kindness. And then lastly, you can choose a community of supportive women, you know, who are going through the similar struggles that you have. And I can talk more about my program if I have some time afterwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a really fantastic talk. If anyone would like to learn a little bit more about Jenifer, we've put her bio in the chat box, so have a look there. We'll also be following up with her information, so if you do want to connect with her at a later date, you can do that. And at the end of this session, we'll have 10 minutes to ask both Jenifer and Christina some of the questions that have come up in the Q&A box. And I'll say now, this is an incredibly popular topic. We've had loads of questions come in for you too, so I'll just get you ready for that. And so now we're going to hand over to Christina. Christina, thank you for joining us. I will let you deliver your talk now. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jenifer. I think that was a lovely talk. I really enjoyed it. But I do love presentations, making slides. So I will share mine. Let's see if I can share. Can you see the presenter? Sarah?
Yes, we can. Yeah,
okay.
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. You're not seeing my notes, right?
No, we can see your slides.
Okay, perfect. All right. So hello, everyone. And I was just really going to compliment what Jenifer had said. I think we really sing into the anti-inflammatory nutrition messaging. I'm Christina Montoya, a registered dietitian. I'm also passionate about cannabis sciences. And I've been a Sjogren's patient, rheumatoid arthritis patient, fibromyalgia patient for many years now. So I really want to compliment a little bit of Jenifer's talk, the last message about about nourishing our bodies. And we're so overwhelmed by all the messaging information around us, autoimmune diet, what can we do? Oh my God, go keto, go intermittent fasting. There's so much messaging that is very confusing. So what should we do? But then there is a movement behind us that is called the intuitive eating. So I will just really touch on it today. But I just want you to remember to remind you that with intuitive eating, it teaches you that eating or nourishing is about a personal process of honoring your health by paying attention to the messages of your body and meeting your physical and emotional needs. And this was a movement that I was created back in the 90s. So they ask you I want you to ask yourself these 3 questions every time you start eating your meals. What are you eating? Why are you eating it? And how does it make you feel? And it depends on how does it make you feel. You feel guilty. You feel, it's not about like labeling food goods or bad. But if that food is really making you feel kind of crappy, is it worth eating it, right? So it's about making all those reflections when we embracing food. The 10 principles of intuitive eating, you can see all listed here, but the ones that really speaks to me is that making peace with food, cope with your emotions with kindness, respect your body and accept your genetic blueprint, right? So it's just one thing at a time, just acknowledge how your body reacts to certain foods, reactions, and environment. And make food choices that honor your health and taste buds while making you feel good. So one of the messages, here's a few hacks, and it's really the resources from the two dietitians who created the intuitive eating. So if you're interested in really having more compassion around food, I highly recommend these two resources. And this is a message that I got from one of my clients is that I'm now asking myself, how will this food make me feel? Is it good fuel for my body? Before eating something, which is way better than good versus bad mentality. Remember, it's about nourishing our bodies. And another concept that really helps us to kind of relax and stay in the moment is the mindful eating. And I would like to share these five S's of mindful eating by Dr. Susan Alvarez, who is a psychologist expert on mindful eating. So every time you're gonna eat, it's just not about how beautiful or well you have the perfect anti-inflammatory plate, but if you're not set in the right environment, that you're calm, you take your time to sit down, to slowly chew your food, to savor it, to really smell, taste, notice, just eat. Avoid distractions. Put away your smartphones or turn your TV off. Maybe just have that friendly conversation with your family. Um, Simplify, which I will explain a little bit later, but also it refers to putting healthy foods or the anti-inflammatory foods in convenient places where you can actually see it within the field of vision. If you see a bag of potatoes right in front of you, you're just going to be likely to go and grab it. Whereas maybe you have your bowl of fruit or apples or some nuts, then you might more likely to go and reach out for those foods. And don't forget to smile, which that will help you to create brief pauses. So here's another other hacks or books that I really love, like Eat Q. It's a great book about unlocking the weight loss power of emotional intelligence. So it's really understanding about how to manage those emotions. Now we move into Simplify, which is the meal prep hacks. As I would say myself, as a veteran of being an arthritis patient for so many years, I just want a personal chef. But because I can't afford a personal chef, so I learned to really simplify my grocery, my pantry, what I put in my fridge and my freezer. So here's really supplementary to what Jenifer explained is that start really stocking on anti-inflammatory foods. So you have those healthy oils, you have fruits and vegetables that are in season. Start getting your legumes, seeds, nuts, fermented dairy products. Stock up on some non-perishable foods like a light tuna and water, some canned beans, because there are days when you're going to feel fatigued that those foods come in really handy. And I guess I also support like Jenifer's motto of adding anti-inflammatory foods every day as you can. Maybe replace those trigger foods, not necessarily eliminate. And eliminate only if necessary and with guidance. And here's when you have like say celiac disease or some other conditions like Sjogren's syndrome, where they are really could be truly sensitive to gluten or increased risk of celiac disease. So here's what an anti-inflammatory plate looked like. And this is actually a resource that I had on my website. So when you subscribe to my website, you can download it. And it basically lists all the anti-inflammatory foods that you can get from all the different food groups. So you have the vegetables in season, right? Whole grains. And an anti-inflammatory plate doesn't have to look so fancy, right? Like this is a very simple meal where you can have like lentils, plant-based, you have your whole grains, you have like vegetables, also root vegetables like plantain, water, plant-based beverages, if you can tolerate lactose, and green tea, preferably instead of coffee or other caffeinated drinks. So I always said like before meal prep, then we need to kind of do a kitchen prep. So I couldn't believe like how many pictures I actually had of or tools that I got it over the years. But I really tried to get some of the tools that are also budget friendly, because there are many tools that they look really cool, but I found it very pricey. Like I cannot afford $90 ergonomic knife, or like not having a child, like you kind of have to set up your priorities. But there are other things that you could find easily in Dollarama. There are some certain food processors that are more gentle on your joints. But these are probably basic tools that you can add to your kitchen. So there are different can openers. So for some people, this one can work. Here in Canada, we have the ADL Parsons. So you can go online and purchase some of these assisted devices to help you with the kitchen or preparation activities. Also, I've seen like a stand mixer. The apple slicer, I use it for to cut fruits and veggies like apples, pears, kiwis, tomatoes, potatoes, beets. I use the egg slicers to even slice on olives, strawberries, kiwis, avocado, even mushrooms. I also like to use like a large handle knife. This one could be great. I think this is I believe this is a bread knife, which is very ergonomic and comfortable. They also have a knife, chef knife, that is also with the similar structure. So that's something that you can look it up. Remember that I really love the OXO products, but the Good Grips brand, which allow you, they have like larger handles that are easier for you to manipulate in the kitchen. The Ninja Master Prep Pro Food is lovely because it's ergonomic and the power head is so easy to handle. So something to think about. A hand blender always comes in handy. And then here, there's like a different can opener, but I'm gonna show you a few more trips here. So you can see my little egg slicer doing the trick. Then think about also the lightweight dinner set that you can use in IKEA is coming up with like really great sets, and they're very cheap. They're like selling like a $1 per plate. Instant Pot, also having maybe some manual choppers could be helpful. And the anti-fatigue mat is definitely a must if you want to stay, maybe even if you're going to be standing longer than an hour in the kitchen. But also remember that you can sit down to prepare your meals. And there was a question about the electric can opener, and this is one of the brands, the Ban Ruid. I found it on Amazon, and I was just gonna put it there and relax with my boy. He actually fell asleep when I was doing this. But you can also have the Good Grips can opener, which is a really good one. If you maybe want to be more creative, I use my resistance bands when I can't reach any of my if I want to open a can. Other things to think about when you're in the kitchen is that the OXO pulp containers. Again, like that brand I really like. I found it very ergonomic and it's very easy to open. Then we have the Snapware storage containers, which are very popular. We see them everywhere, but I find them hard, incredibly hard to open. But I use from the ADL Parsons, I found that really cool tool that it allows me to open, like cans, open my containers. I just use it for every little thing. It's like a nail, like an extended nail. So it doesn't put so much pressure on my hands. And just if you're gonna use the plastic because they're lighter, make sure that they're BPA free. Convenience foods, honestly, is always a choice. Not only frozen foods, like Jenifer mentioned, but also think about all the convenience, like salads. These are like my favorite. I love Eat Smart, having pre-cut foods, fruits and vegetables. Also some frozen meals that are kind of pretty cool. This is actually falafels, like gluten-free falafels, and then you just can complement it at home with hummus or tzatziki sauce, veggies. And then when it comes to meal planning inspiration, I always said, when do you do the meal prep? Honestly, when you have enough energy to do it. And if it's either maybe one day of the week that you're off or a Sunday, it doesn't matter. It's really when you have the time for it.
Christina, we're
Mhm.
going to give you one more minute to wrap up. We've had a lot of questions come in, so we want to make sure we've got some time to ask them.
Okay, so just to wrap up, so this is really just more meal planning inspiration. Just make sure like when your time saving tips will be kids, keep ingredients simple, batch cooking, cook easy recipes. And I think maybe Jenifer and I can talk about our programs at the end of the day after we answer some questions. Sounds good?
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, we will be sharing information about your programs in chat, and we will also be following up with an email that gives everyone all the information from everything that's been shared today. So at this point, I would like to invite Jenifer to come back on and join us because we have lots of questions for you too. So I'm going to start off by saying to everyone in the audience, if we don't get to your question and we don't get it answered live, we will answer it by text in the Q&A box. We'll ask Christina and Jenifer, they can do that as well. But let's see if we can get to as many as possible now. All right. So the first question, which is from Brittany, is do you recommend keto or high protein, low carb diet for RA?
You take it away, Jenifer. Let's see how we do that.
Honestly speaking, as you can tell, the kind of what's going on here between Christina and I, we didn't talk about any specific diets. We talked about an eating pattern. So to keep my answer short, I would say it needs to be individualized. Keto is for epilepsy. So if you have RA and are struggling with epilepsy, then you would have already been put on keto diet for a long time now. It's only medical nutrition therapy for people with epilepsy. For kids rather, and then in adulthood. Yeah, so I can go on and on about this question, but long story short, following an anti-inflammatory eating pattern with identifying your trigger foods and replacing them with more anti-inflammatory foods that work for your body would be the best option. Intermittent fasting is something that I generally don't recommend because research studies have shown that patients with arthritis already don't get enough calories in a day. They experience muscle wasting. Again, if you're on methotrexate, you probably have experienced some unintentional weight loss. Some people do experience that. So I would highly discourage trying any kind of diet without a supervision of a dietitian like Christina or myself.
Have you got anything to add there, Christina, on that one?
No, I think I completely agree with you. And then also, when the risk of an intermittent fasting is the way that is promoted, is that you do the fasting for, like, let's say like 16 hours at a time, you do it overnight, but then during the day you can eat whatever you want, right? And so that, what is the point? So,
Yeah.
and eventually it becomes unsustainable. So just think about things that are going to be sustainable in the long run, because you're living with arthritis for life, and that's the reality.
Yeah, and it can also impact your hormones, the way you're getting, your periods, your hormonal balance, and then any flares associated with those hormones. And again, eating in a very short window of time and eating whatever you want, it's not sustainable. And it's a diet. So just think of it, is this something I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life? And if the answer is no, then the answer is no.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've had quite a few questions come in around supplements, asking if there are any best supplements for helping with inflammation issues and joint pain. Anything that you might recommend, specifically omega-3 supplements? Are they sufficient instead of eating fish? So yes, anything you can share about supplements would be great.
You can go first, Christina.
Yeah, so when it comes to supplements, that remember that we need to differentiate what is inflammatory arthritis and osteoarthritis. If you have inflammatory arthritis, you want to make sure that you want to address the root cause of that inflammation, right? So a supplement is not going to have that targeted function, right, to reduce inflammation. When it comes to fish oils, that I find that the ones, they could work, specifically they said omega-3s, but look at that the content, because sometimes you can get in the, let's say Costco Kirkland, the EPA and DHA content is only like 500 per like 2 caps. And so you have to take a recommended maybe 3,000, 4,000 milligrams of those two fatty acids amount. So you have to take like 12 pills of that. The other thing, so make sure that they're concentrated. So Nutri-C, it's Nutri-C, right?
Yeah,
That
omega-3.
Nutri-C.
Yeah.
Nutri-C omega-3 is one of my favorites. And also make sure that the ingredient is triglyceride base and no ethyl ester, because the triglyceride base is closer to what you consume from like the food itself, like fish, whereas the ethyl is going to take longer to get, it's less bioavailable. So it really, again, depends on each individual. What is your condition that you're trying to address?
Yeah. My only thing would be the word supplement. If you Google the definition of the word supplement, it needs to supplement your diet, right? However, that being said, the supplements need to be individualized, because some of the supplements can interact. So like, for example, if you're on warfarin, you cannot have turmeric supplement, and things like that. It's very, very important to ask your doctor about interactions with the drugs for supplements. Sometimes these supplements will cause more harm than good. The only one supplement that I am fond of is vitamin D, because we know enough based on research studies is that women with arthritis, I just say women, men, overall patients with arthritis are vitamin D deficient. So, taking proper amount of vitamin D supplement, again, advocating for proper blood work to be done so that you know what your levels of vitamin D are, and then appropriately dosing the vitamin D supplement is super important. And then if you're on prednisone for a long time, asking your doctor for calcium supplement recommendation is super important. And then if you're following a vegan diet, then again, omega-3 supplement can come in handy, as well as B12 supplement, and checking your iron levels, because if you're feeling constantly low energy, fatigue, then looking into your iron and B12 levels is super important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so following up on that, what do you think about taking food sensitivity tests? We have someone in the audience who would never have known about a gluten sensitivity had they not done that, as well as a leaky gut issue. And all of those issues were diagnosed from a naturopath rather than an RA specialist.
I think that about the leaky gut is so controversial, right? So, and it's not really a diagnosis as far as I'm concerned, right? So there is some evidence to say some, what is it? The gut permeability. Um, I do believe that there are certain like toxins and eating like a pro-inflammatory foods can lead to that. But I think the leaky gut as a diagnosis itself really doesn't exist. So you have to be very careful around those definitions too. And in terms of like the food sensitivity test, what also I gather is the food sensitivity test, they're really gonna test what you are most, you currently eating.
Yeah.
So you are gonna show sensitivity to what you eat most of the days. So, and then strangely enough, you never ate I don't know, grapefruit, for instance, and it's gonna show up there. So honestly, they are not reliable. And the only way to really identify food sensitivities is through a guided and supported elimination diet. And that's when I said, add, replace, and eliminate only when necessary.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
don't waste your money.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you rather spend money, invest on yourself in working with a dietitian so that you can be guided properly on, what your food sensitivities are, because also through keeping a food and symptom journal, we can help you with identify your unique trigger foods. And so food sensitivities tests are like really, in my opinion, and in evidence-based, they are a waste of money.
So thank you both for sharing that. At this point, I should mention that I have in fact paid for food sensitivity tests, so that was very eye-opening for me. So I did that
Guilty.
about a week ago. This is a good question. Molly asks, what do you think, avocado oil versus olive oil?
Great question. Olive oil has a lot of evidence behind it to help support anti-inflammatory, properties. Avocado oil just has a very high heat. What's the word, Christina? High heat.
The smoke point.
Smoke point, yes, thank you. Sometimes I lose words. Yeah, so it has high smoke point. However, it's so new, we don't have any research evidence on it. The only a lot of evidence we have is on olive oil. So usually I say if you're trying to fry something or, just then use avocado oil. It's also expensive and we don't have much evidence. I'd rather eat avocados if you're able to tolerate avocados, but then choosing olive oil on a regular basis is going to be more beneficial, and it's more mainstream and it's easier to find and less expensive than other oils, I find.
That's true. And also remember, like, the simplicity of olive oil is just squeezing olives, right? So whereas the avocado oil requires more processing. So that's what you want to avoid as well. And the olive oil has the two options: the extra virgin olive oil, that's for the dressings, and you're not going to heat it up. But you also can find the classic olive oil, which is like a little bit lighter, and that you can use, and it kind of tolerates a little bit more of the heat if you're going to stir fry or doing something like that. So there's a variety of olive oils. But again, if you maybe don't want to, you're not used to the taste, because it could be bitter, start with the classic, the lighter oil.
That's great. So Dee asks, are some fruits and veggies more anti-inflammatory than others, like cherries or blueberries? And those are two we do often hear about.
My answer would be choose what's local to you and choose what's more available to you, because it all boils down to consistency. If a bag of cherries is $6 and you really cannot afford it, I highly doubt you're going to be including that every single day, because you're going to be cost saving. So I would suggest, I would say yes to that question. Definitely all the different colors, blueberries, cherries, oranges, they all have different, antioxidants. But at the end of the day, what matters is eating at least 4 to 5 servings of vegetables and 2 to 3 servings of fruits, however you possibly can. And the more color, the more variety, the better it is. I'm very practical and realistic, so I don't talk about superfoods at all because they are not sustainable and they're so expensive.
That's so true. I only eat cherries in May or June when they come.
Yeah.
That's it. And they're also more rich in nutrients. But also think about that all those purple and bluish fruits and vegetables, there are studies showing that it actually helps in terms of like that brain gut connection and reducing anxiety. So there's probably more into it, right? But I think there's more benefits really than not eating them.
Okay, so we have time for two more. Oh God, what's happened to my voice today? We have time for two more questions, and we're going to keep them quick, and then we're going to go to a break before we go to our Elba Bra product demo. So here's a good one. What can be replaced with glutinous white rice? Rice is a staple for our meals, and I've noticed it inflames the digestion and flares up the arthritis. We're so accustomed to rice. What are some good recommendations for replacements?
You want to go first, Christina? You want me to go?
Sure. Well, I grew up eating rice, so I love my rice. And some of the choices that I do, I actually prefer like the parboiled rice. And it gives it like a little bit more flavor. It's still low glycemic index. Quinoa is also a great substitute, but from the resistant starch point of view, even the white rice, right, when it's cooked and then it's cooled and then reheated, it actually provides resistant starch to the gut microbiome. So once in a while, I don't really see, like having some sushi, I don't really see a problem with that. It's adding more variety.
Yeah, and if I understand the question correctly, you are finding that it's causing the rice is a staple and it's causing some issues. Is that what the question was?
Yes, that's right. She's
Right.
experiencing issues
Yeah,
after
so
rice.
I think it may be, again, I don't know you personally, or I haven't looked at your diet history or anything, but what comes to mind is it could be something else that you're pairing with rice, because rice already is a gluten-free grain and it barely has nothing, it's just carbohydrate and a little bit of fat, not fat, fiber. So I think it could be what you're pairing with the rice may be causing some issues. And then, like Christina said, rice is totally fine. You don't have to shy away from rice. You just have to make sure you're pairing your rice with a nice lean source of protein, healthy fats, vegetables, and you should be able to have a balanced anti-inflammatory meal.
Okay, so I think at this point we are going to have to draw a close to the questions so that we can all have a short break before we come back for our product demo. I'd like to thank both of our presenters. That was a really great session.